Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and my team selection video for Game Week 18. And the first thing I want to say in this video is the fact that you need to make sure that you have your team sorted by the end of the day, Thursday, because it is a Thursday deadline, which is really strange because you don't really get those usually. But it is the M23 derby between Brighton and Crystal Palace, and they set it for a Thursday night. So yeah. Make sure that you have your team set, your transfers done, your captain correct, everything in order before this game week starts. But before we go into what I'm going to do in Game Week 18, let's take a look at what happened in Game Week 17 for my team, which was a pretty good game week in general. I got a small green arrow up from 190k to 180k overall, just about. This is after the Solanke points. Well, the Bournemouth points in general have been removed, null and void, because of the game being cancelled and then postponed. Which I think is, I don't know, I haven't really made up a decision if I think it's fair or not, but bad times for those with Solanke. You probably did a good job bringing him in for this game week because he did score. He probably would have gotten bonus points, potentially even more points in that game as well, but that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes in FPL and you get unlucky. So yeah, but at least you have Solanke, who's a good player for the next 2 game weeks as well, and potentially even beyond that as well, seeing as they have a double game week extra now as well. But yeah, either way, for me, it was a decent game week. I was not really affected by the Luton-Bournemouth game in general because I only had Kabore on third bench and he didn't score any points regardless. He got 2 points and would never have come into my team anyway, so didn't really affect me. But I did 2 transfers. First one was Haaland to Watkins, and I'm pretty happy about that. Haaland out seems like a good decision, especially right now, seeing as Haaland is still not fully fit. It seems like he might not even be able to be fit for Game Week 19, potentially even Game Week 20. So it looks pretty good for the Haaland to Watkins swap, because Watkins came in, scored a goal, got 9 points. Really happy about that. Happy about that decision. Only Mateta for Crystal Palace scored more points than Watkins this game week, and Mateta had an away game against Man City, so I don't think anyone really expected to see Mateta outscore Watkins this game week in general. So really happy about that with Watkins. He's also going to be the best captaincy option in Game Week 18. So really happy to have him for the first time this season, and he delivered straight away. So that's one of the few times this season that an offensive player has actually gotten an attacking return when I brought him in the following game week. Usually it takes like a game week or 2 before my new transfers start to work their wonders, but Watkins already has proven that he's a really good FPL asset. Second transfer I did was a pretty late transfer, a hit to sell Matty Cash to buy Pedro Porro. I just felt like Pedro Porro had a better chance of getting points than Gabriel Magalhaes this game. Gabriel is the one that I had to bench after doing the Cash to Porro transfer. If I'd kept Cash, I would have just started Gabriel. So in real life points, I actually lost 2 points from it because I did a -4 to do the transfer, obviously. So even though Porro scored 2 more points than Gabriel, I lost 4 points from doing the transfer. So net points gained lost is -2, but there's so many other advantages to getting Porro already, and one of them is the fact that Udogie got suspended. He got a yellow card, so he's going to be suspended for the next game, so I need even more defenders for next game week. Matty Cash, I'm not so sure about him next game week, so I think that's still a good transfer. And also, Matty Cash went down in price, and Pedro Porro went up in price after I did the transfer as well, so I actually gained some team value from that transfer move as well, so pretty happy about that in general. So 64 points -4 brings me to a total points of 1,016 points. I broke the 1,000 point barrier. Really happy about that. And I also got about a 10k plus rank this game week as well, going from 190k to 180k. And now 51 points behind the top 10k, so I actually lost compared to the top 10k 2 points. I was 49 points behind them last game week. But yeah, it's still plenty of time to catch up with the top 10k and get into those positions where I usually try to aim for, at least. But top 10k is getting more and more difficult by the season, and yeah, I'm in a pretty good position so far, especially with the wildcard remaining and all that stuff. So yeah, just going through my team quickly. Dubravka in goal with 7 points, got a clean sheet, and that is sort of the theme for this game week. 8 out of the 20 teams got clean sheet points, or managed to get clean sheets at least. Dubravka was one of them with 7 points for Newcastle. Then we have Kostas Tsimikas, who also got a clean sheet against Man United, 7 points for him. And Pedro Porro and Udogie also kept a clean sheet against Nottingham Forest. Kind of luckily, because Forest had some pretty huge chances, but still, Pedro Porro got the clean sheet and the bonus points. Udogie did not get any bonus points. He even got a -1 for getting a yellow card. So yeah, not the best for Udogie. That also means he's suspended, which is kind of annoying, but at the same time, it makes me more happy that I have Porro at least. So sort of feels vindicated, at least the fact that I did the Porro transfer in that regard as well. Then we had Salah as captain, 6 points, 3 times 2, not what you expect or what you hope from a captain, especially when Salah plays against Man United because that at Anfield, because that has been a really lucrative game for Salah the last few seasons as well. So yeah, kind of disappointed to see Salah not scoring any goals. He did score, however, now in the Carabao Cup against West Ham in a 30-minute cameo. He looked really good, so I think Salah's still good going forward, but he's been a bit disappointing lately as my captain in most of the last few game weeks. So yeah, I've expected more from Salah than what he's shown so far. Son as well did not have the best game week. He basically just blanked, didn't really get any points. But that's Son. Sometimes he blanks and other times he scores 16 points. That might happen already next week. So still happy to own Son until the Asian Cup starts when he's going to leave, which is in game week 21. So yeah, I feel pretty good about Son going forward as well, even though he blanked. Then we have Saka, who also blanked, but he looked actually really threatening in Arsenal's game against Brighton. Really surprised to see Arsenal just completely dismantle Brighton, really. They should have won way more than 2-0. But some good saves from Verbruggen and just some bad finishing from Arsenal made it so it was only 2-0. Probably should have been 3 or 4-0. But Saka had 4 shots in total in that game, which is more than he's had in most games so far this season. He looked way more threatening than he's looked so far this season. And even though this was one of the only blanks that Saka has had so far this season, I think it was one of his better performances. So I'm not worried about him going forward into the future. I think he's still one of the best assets to have in the game, especially if you have a lot of value tied into him. So I will not be looking to sell Saka anytime soon either. Hwang is someone that I would probably consider selling, even though I just brought him in game week 16. He's blanked in 2 game weeks in a row, which is kind of disappointing. He did blank against West Ham, which is my favorite team, so I'm pretty happy about that in general, the fact that West Ham won 3-0. But yeah, Hwang has not been the best transfer so far, but he still has 2 decent fixtures before the wildcard I'm going to use in game week 20. So I'm probably going to give him the time to prove his worth. And also Pedro Neto is going to be back at least for the game week 19 fixture, I think, which is going to help Hwang quite a lot. So not too fussed about keeping Hwang. Like, it's not that big of a deal to keep him, even though he's been disappointing so far. Cole Palmer has been nothing but disappointing, if that's the correct term or correct way to use that. He's been amazing, a really good value, still really good value even at 5.6. I bought him for quite a bit cheaper, not quite the 4.9 some other people brought him in for, but I brought him in time for the 14-point haul against Sheffield United this past game week. Had a goal, had an assist, had really tremendous numbers from open play. Not even with penalties. He's so much more than just a penalty merchant. He's been Chelsea's best player so far this season, and I'm really happy to have him in my team for pretty much the foreseeable future. I can't really see me selling him anytime close, at least, especially with the fixtures that Chelsea have coming up. Up front, Watkins, like I mentioned, the new transfer in, 9 points, really happy with him. But then we have the final striker who I'm not happy with at all, and that is Darwin Núñez. And he actually played the full game in the Carabao Cup quarterfinal against West Ham. Didn't even score a goal, even though Liverpool won that game 5-1. So kind of worrying times for Darwin. His biggest opposition in terms of playing as a striker for Liverpool, Cody Gakpo, also played from the start of the game, but he scored and got subbed off after 77 minutes. So I think that sort of tells you something about Darwin's minutes for the next game against Arsenal, which is a huge game. Maybe Gakpo will be the one to be preferred, but sometimes they play it together, and Darwin, for what it's worth, actually had some decent defensive contributions at least. That doesn't really help you in FPL, but it might help him keep his place in the team. But Darwin is definitely on the chopping block potentially the next 2 game weeks, even though he has Burnley away in game week 19. I'm not so sure about Darwin going forward, but yeah, we'll talk more about that in the game week 18 plans. On the bench, Turner with 2 points, conceding against Spurs, did a pretty massive mistake, or 2 massive mistakes in the same attack that led to the 2-0 goal for Spurs. So I'm not sure if Turner's going to keep his position in goal for much longer, but it doesn't really matter for me because I have the wildcard in game week 20 and I have Dubravka for the next 2 game weeks where he has 2 really easy fixtures against Luton and Nottingham Forest, I think, the next 2 fixtures for Dubravka. So not too fussed about Turner on my bench. Gabriel, obviously the first game week where I benched him, he gets the clean sheet points against Brighton, who had scored in every single game they've played since last season at least. So yeah, kind of surprised to see that, but at the same time, it's a good sign for Arsenal, the fact that they're looking so good currently. Going forward, it's going to be a discussion whether to have 2 Arsenal defenders or 2 Arsenal attackers as like a Arsenal triple up, because they have really good fixtures and they're looking to go into form right now because they're looking pretty good, at least from what they do on the pitch currently. They're producing a lot of chances, but they haven't converted that many chances, but I think Arsenal are going to be a force going forward. Then we have Cameron Archer, who once again blanked. Nothing new there really against Chelsea. He's looked a bit more lively with the new manager, but at the same time, not too impressed with him. So he might actually be someone that I sell as well, seeing as I have a lot of money in the bank. So yeah, we'll see what we do there. And then finally, Issa Kabore, who was on his way to 2 points before the match got postponed and suspended. So yeah, nothing there from Kabore. But that's pretty much my Game Week 17 score. Let's move on to my Game Week 18 plans. And I mentioned how I was kind of disappointed by Darwin lately, and he is definitely someone I'm considering selling. Before Darwin once again looked pretty bad in Game Week 17, my plan was just to do Kabore to Trippier, because I don't really need Kabore in Game Week 19 where he has a good fixture, but I do need a good defender in this game week, because as you can see from my starting lineup, I have Tsimikas playing against Arsenal, Gabriel playing against Liverpool, they play against each other, and I also have Salah and Saka from the opposing teams there as well. So it's really hard to see all 4 of those guys hitting at the same time, and especially with Darwin as well in the same team. So I kind of want to make sure that I don't really get much minus from those, or not minus, but that I can actually gain something and not have players that play against each other. So yeah, my thought was doing just Kabore to Trippier and then bench Gabriel again and play Trippier. But with Darwin and how he's looked lately and playing 90 minutes in the Carabao Cup as well, I'm sort of leaning towards selling him as well, because the other thing, it's not just the fact that Darwin has been disappointing, but it's also the fact that Darwin is blocking that 3rd Liverpool spot, which might be pretty important now, seeing as Trent Alexander-Arnold is one of the more popular picks in FPL in general. So I can't do Kabore to Trent Alexander-Arnold for that reason. I can't do that transfer alone, because obviously I'd have 4 Liverpool players and that's not allowed. So I would have to sell Darwin before eventually or potentially getting Trent Alexander-Arnold in Game Week 19 against Burnley away, which is the fixture that I want him in, to be fair, because against Arsenal I don't really see Trent getting that many points, so I'm fine with waiting a week, but I'd have to sell Darwin to be able to do that, unless I sell Tsimikas. But I feel like if Tsimikas is starting against Burnley, I don't really want to sell him. So yeah, that's something that I have to consider. It's also just a matter of like minutes. How much do I think Darwin will play in these next 2 game weeks? How much do I think Wilson will play in these next 2 game weeks? Because Wilson is someone that I'm considering as a replacement for Darwin. Because I think if Isak is out for the next 2 matches, Wilson surely plays both matches in Game Week 18 and Game Week 19. And if that's the case, I think he has the best potential out of all the attackers, maybe apart from Watkins. Because yeah, playing his Luton away and then Nottingham Forest at home, really great fixtures for Wilson, who just keeps scoring when he gets the chance. He's on penalties, and yeah, he's just been a really good player for Newcastle in general whenever he's fit to play. And wherever Isak is not fit to play, Wilson usually plays. So he's someone that I'm definitely considering bringing in, but at the same time, not 100% sure about Isak's injury. Eddie Howe said that he was close to making the game last time around, so maybe Isak will be back, and that will hamper Wilson's points potential. So the more safe option would be Darwin to Solanke. Solanke I still think is a great option, even for the next 2 game weeks as well. I'm obviously using my wildcard in Game Week 20, so I just need the next 2 game weeks. But even beyond that, I think Solanke is a good pick. So yeah, he's definitely someone that I'm considering as well. I might just do that, because Wilson historically has just been a really terrible player for me in FPL. So I'm sure he would just blank in the first fixture and then not play in the second fixture if I brought him in. So, but it's also the fact that I might just keep Darwin as well. If he plays from start against Burnley in Game Week 19, I think that's a really good fixture for him. So I might just hold out hope that he is trolling everyone as well, and that he's going to score now that most people are going to sell him. So, but obviously selling him would open up that spot for Trent in Game Week 19 as well. So yeah, there are some considerations here, but I'm currently leaning towards just doing Kabore to Trippier and then seeing what happens in Game Week 19. Maybe we get some early team news in Game Week 19 as well, because Newcastle have the early game, so we might get team news about Wilson starting or not. And we also might get team news about Liverpool earlier, because Liverpool play in that day as well. They play like 5 or 6 hours after the deadline, or 7 hours, I guess, after the deadline. But we still might get early team news about Darwin starting or not. So if I wait, if I just do Kabore to Trippier this week, I might take a hit in Game Week 19 to bring in Trent Alexander-Arnold in defense and bring in Wilson for Darwin if I get the team news about Darwin not starting and Wilson starting. So I think I could potentially do a hit already this week, but I think it's more smart to wait for 1 more week worth of information, really. But yeah, I'm not sure Darwin even starts against Arsenal, so I might just start Gabriel over Darwin. Maybe Darwin is the one I swap out for Trippier if I bring in Trippier. So yeah, a lot of things to consider. What I'm not really thinking about is who I'm going to captain, because I think Watkins is just the best captaincy option. Aston Villa have been absolutely amazing at home. Watkins has been fantastic all season, and Sheffield United is the worst team in the league. So pretty easy decision for me there. I don't even like my vice captain choice of Son that much either. Maybe Trippier would be my vice captain actually. And we've seen now from the Luton game that maybe vice captain is more important than we've seen. We've also seen the Haaland not playing a couple game weeks ago when he was everyone's captain, and Salah being the vice captain with a lot of points, or Son even in some instances getting a lot of points as a vice captain. So it's important to nail the vice captaincy choice sometimes as well. So yeah, make sure that you have a good vice captain, and mine might be Trippier, to be honest. But yeah, that's pretty much my plans for Game Week 18. Tell me down below in the comments what you would have done in my position. You also got to keep in mind that I only have 2 game weeks to think about, so I can do way more short-sighted moves and sell them again in Game Week 20. But at the same time, I can't really sell people like Saka, for example, who I have a lot of value in. I want him for Game Week 20 and beyond, so I can't really sell him because I'd lose a lot of money from him. So yeah, just keep that in mind when you think about what you would have done in my position with my team. But either way, those are my plans. Let's move on to my free hit team for Game Week 18. But before we look at my free hit team for Game Week 18, if you're using the free hit, we're also going to take a look at what happened with my proposed free hit team for Game Week 17 that I did last week, and see how that team did in this past game week. That was hard to say for me. But anyways, here is that free hit team. So this was my free team for Game Week 17, and it actually had a pretty good score. It would have been even better if Solanke was able to finish his match and get his 9 points. He was on the course for 9 points, potentially even more, potentially less as well if I had gotten a yellow card or something, but most likely it would have been more, 9 points or more. So I'm pretty happy about Solanke as a pick. Obviously, it's a thumbs down because he blanked, and I don't even have a bench player to come on because I had Haaland starting. I did say in the last video the video where I presented this free draft, that if there were team news about Haaland not starting, that I would actually sell him for Alvarez. So I could have cheated and I just had Alvarez in this team instead, but Alvarez also just got 2 points, I think, so wouldn't really help that much either. It would have just been 70 points rather than 68 points. But either way, our gaming rank of 320k is really good. Really happy about that. A lot of points. Dubravka have 7 points in goal. Pedro Porro and Udogie, just like in my own team. 8 points from Porro, 5 points from Udogie. Livramento coming on for Haaland with the 9 points. Really nice to see that. Colwell with 6 points for Chelsea, keeping a clean sheet before he got injured now in the Carabao Cup, sadly for him. Salah got 6 points even as my captain. I wish it was 16 points, but he got 6 points, sorry, as my captain. Almost had the same mistake again. And then Son with the blank, 3 points from him. Decore with 1 point. And Palmer with the 14 points. I was happy that I kept Palmer in my free draft at least. Watkins with 9 points, and then Solanke with the blank, which would have been 9 points. It would have taken me up to 77 points, which would have been even higher rank. I think that would have been like 100k-ish game week rank. So in general, pretty happy about the team. Good process choosing Solanke, like VAR usually says. So yeah, pretty happy about this Game Week 17 team. And finally, I've actually had a good free hit draft because I've been struggling the last 4 or 5 game weeks to pick like a good free hit team. It's a lot more hard than it seems, at least for me. So let's see if I can keep the streak going in Game Week 18. And yeah, this is going to be my proposed free hit draft for Game Week 18. And yeah, for full disclosure, I do have my free hits available, but I'm not going to use it in Game Week 18. I think free hits are more for like emergency use if you don't have any players to play, or if you want to bridge the gap between 2 game weeks. If you have like a double game week and then a blank game week following each other, for example, it's nice to have it to use in the blank game week, or for example, or potentially even in the double game week, depending on your team. So I think that's the best use of the free hit. But if you are free hitting this game week, if you are struggling and you have a lot of players that don't play, this is the team that I would select, and I'll just go through them quickly. In goal, we have Dubravka again. I think Newcastle will keep 2 clean sheets in a row now against Luton and Nottingham Forest, so I think Dubravka is fantastic value. He is the cheapest possible goalkeeper. The backup for him is Bentley, who I still think is going to be the starting goalkeeper for Wolves, because I think Jose Sa is not completely ready to play yet, so Bentley is the best potential, or the most likely starter out of the 4.0 and below goalkeepers. In defense, I have Konsa for Aston Villa. I think he's the most nailed Aston Villa player, and I think Aston Villa playing in Sheffield United at home, we need to triple up on them. So I've actually added all of Konsa, Bailey, and Watkins. Watkins as captain as well into this team. But in defense, finishing it out, I have Pedro Porro against Everton at home. I still think he's a good player, even though Everton have been a pretty good team lately. Kept 4 clean sheets in a row, so maybe Spurs won't score. Maybe Porro won't get his attacking return that he has been getting quite a few times the last few game weeks. But he could also keep a clean sheet, because I think Spurs are a type of team that can beat anyone, and they can also sort of lose against anyone. So I think Pedro Porro is just really good value, so I have him there. Trippier, I still think is a good option. I haven't really talked much about Trippier and his horrible December month. That has put some people off getting Trippier, because people think potentially he might even get dropped, because they do have Dan Burn coming back in Newcastle. and that means that Livramento could play right back as well, rather than Trippier. But I still think Trippier is going to be nailed in the team, and especially seeing Eddie Howe's comments about how Trippier has been so amazing for Newcastle, and now it's Newcastle's time to support Trippier. After saying those comments, it would be really weird to bench him because he's not been performing to his usual high standards lately. So yeah, I think Trippier is still going to be a great FPL asset. I think Newcastle have good chances of keeping clean sheets in the next 2 games. And I think there's a decent chance of Trippier getting some attacking points as well. And bonus points, we know if they keep a clean sheet, it's most likely coming Trippier's way. So I really like him both in general in terms of having him permanently or as a free hit pick in Game Week 18 as well. In midfield, I still go with Salah and Son. I still think they can explode in any game, especially at home. Salah against Arsenal at home, Son against Everton at home. Not the best fixtures, but I think it's just nice to safeguard against those teams that have Salah and Son, which is basically every single team in FPL, it feels like, at least currently. So yeah, I still think they need to be in the team. Then I also have Bailey, like I mentioned, against Sheffield United at home. Came on and got an assist in 30 minutes last time around, but his game time is a bit iffy, so maybe if I'm not 100% sure about him starting, I think potentially he starts, but there are also rumors that he's not in training as well, so I don't know. Maybe it's just simpler and easier and more safe to go with Cole Palmer in this instance. Palmer plays Wolverhampton away, so maybe that should be what you do instead. I could do that swap actually. I have enough money to do that. But Kudus is another player that I really like the look of, even though he didn't look too good against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup. He has been fantastic in the league so far, and I think West Ham will have quite a bit of they want to avenge this result against Liverpool, losing 5-1 in the Carabao Cup, and they face a Man United team that drew Liverpool 0-0 in the league, who are probably flying high and feel pretty good about themselves. But I think it's sort of a false sense of security because I think West Ham could potentially score a lot of goals in this game against Man United. So Kudus is in the team. Also Watkins against Sheffield United, don't really have to say much more about that. Like I mentioned earlier, he's the best captaincy option by far, I think, this week, and he has the captain armband. And then Solanke and Wilson, the 2 strikers that I'm considering bringing into my own team, also make this free hit squad. Solanke against Nottingham Forest away, really good fixture for him, and Wilson against Luton away, really good fixture for him, and most likely Isak is not going to play, so I really like that team. On the bench, I have Bruno Fernandes as first bench. Maybe you could make a case that he should start over Kudus, but I have faith in West Ham in that game still, even after the loss against Liverpool. And then this final 2 spots on the bench, which is really irrelevant because you expect all 11 players in the free hits to start. But I have picked 2 players that I feel like are kind of overlooked lately, and that is Anthony Robinson, plays for Fulham. Not the best team, obviously, but they keep a couple clean sheets. And Robinson has been really attacking and had gotten some assists this season as well. So I think he's a decent option. I think he's pretty nailed at left back at Fulham. It seems like he's the preferred fullback option out of him, Castagna, and Kenny Tete. But it is a slight rotation risk there. But I really like Anthony Robinson as a pick in general. And playing as Burnley at home, you could make a case that he should have been in the starting lineup for this team as well. Then we have Badiashile as the final defender, and he did make a massive mistake that led to a goal against Newcastle, but I think he's also one of the more nailed players for Chelsea's backline, especially now that Colwill seems to be injured. Badiashile showed some goal threat last season as well, so I think he's an overlooked option for only 4.4. Playing as Wolves away, which is not the best fixture, but that's why he's third bench, really. So that's pretty much the whole team. As far as the favorite differentials go, I feel like Wilson is a really good forward differential. Not many people are speaking about him because obviously he's not a good long-term pick. But short-term, which is what I'm thinking currently, both with the free hits draft for this and also with my own team with only 2 game weeks before I do a wildcard, Wilson seems like a really good option, especially if Isak is out for both games. Then Bailey in midfield. Quite like him as a shout if he plays, but that's a big asterisk. But if he doesn't play, then Cole Palmer is probably a better option. But also potentially Kudus could be my favorite differential. So maybe I'll switch this in post. Maybe I'll change up a bit. Maybe you'll see a new graphic right about now. And that will be my actual team. Free hit draft presented. But either way. Defender, I really like Trippier. I think he's still going to play, and I think he might get points, like I said earlier. So those are my favorite 3 differentials, and that has been my free hit draft for Game Week 18. Pretty happy in general about FPL currently. I think it's going to be a lot of fun now that there's African Cup of Nations and the Asian Cup coming up. Most people will have to sell Salah and Son and restructure their whole team. Haaland being out as well is another spanner in the works and makes it a lot more interesting. When are you going to bring in Haaland back again? Who are you sacrificing to get him back? Who are you sacrificing eventually when Salah and Son come back from Asian Cup and AFCON? it's going to be a lot of decisions going forward, and I'm happy that I have the wildcard in Game Week 20 to sort of like settle the team and have like a nice base to go out from before this whole thing starts with all the players leaving for Asian Cup and African Cup of Nations and stuff. I think it's interesting with Salah as well, seeing as they went through in the Carabao Cup now, and they have some pretty easy matches in the semi-final. Or as easy opponents potentially in the semi-final. I haven't seen the draw yet. That is actually probably happening right now as I speak. But yeah, regardless of who they get in the semi-final, whether it's Chelsea, Fulham, or Middlesbrough, they have a decent chance of going to the final now, which would make them have a blank game week in Game Week 26. So potentially Salah, if Egypt goes all the way to the final in the African Cup of Nations, which they have done in the past, they did it last time as well, he could potentially miss Game Week 24, potentially even Game Week 25 through AFCON, and then Game Week 26 could be a blank as well from the League Cup final. So he could potentially be out from Game Week 21 until Game Week 26. So that would give you a lot more time to spread the funds around and find other ways to get Salah back eventually. So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. So I left that nugget towards the end of the video for anyone that has kept up with me for this whole video for 25 minutes. So that's a little tiny nugget that I'm probably going to share more in the upcoming game weeks as well. But either way, that has been the whole video for this time. My team selection video for Game Week 18. Hope you can leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe. That would be really helpful for me. I'm still trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. That would be a nice first step. It would also give me closer to being like verified and get like a proper, can't even remember the term now, but get like partnered with YouTube, I guess. So yeah, that would be really appreciated if you could do that as well. But either way, I hope you have a nice game week. I hope you have a nice weekend as well. Christmas is coming up, and I hope you just enjoy your time, and I hope you get to spend time with loved ones, and yeah, just have a good time in general. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.